Here's a place where all of us can be safe. Our stories of transformation can be safe, and all the things we want to research are safe here. This is Safe Space with Cheyenne. I'm really excited you're here, and I hope you stick around for a while, because I've got a lot to show you before I leave Earth. I love you guys. Welcome back to your safe space. If you are an original listener of my first podcast, Spiritual Smorgasbord, I actually have one of my mermaid friends from season 1, episode 9 of Spiritual Smorgasbord. Her name is Shauna Dwyer. She is she has a business talking about elementals, spirit animals. I honestly named the episode Listening to the Call of Your Soul. Her story goes back to finding a whale basically in her meditation, and she was like, what's going on here? Why is there a whale in my meditation? What does this mean? And she ended up finding a really cool pathway to, I would say, like her awakening story, that she's able to help you with spirit animals, spirit totems, elementals, and even we're gonna dabble in a little bit of extraterrestrials. So I would grab a notebook, as I usually recommend, because she's also coming on today to talk to us about how you can also engage with spirit animals, find out why they're here for you, and kind of helping. So, Shauna, hello.
Hi.
Welcome back. I'm so excited to talk to you. You've gone through so much since, we recorded together last. So I'm so excited to see what you brought for us today.
It doesn't seem that long ago, but it was about a year ago.
Yeah, we just checked it out on Spotify. We saw that, we recorded in probably August, and then we released the content in November. Yeah, super crazy. Think of all the quantum leaps we've done in a year, like the little babies coming into their gifts and all that fun stuff at the time, and now we're just like, okay, we know what we're doing. We're still learning. We're still a good student, but I'm going to embody my purpose a little bit more.
Yes.
I love it. Okay. So what'd you bring us today, friend?
Well, I just like to touch more about spirit animals, just kind of how to work with them and how I've learned to work with them, and just kind of what spirit animals are and what they can do for you. So mainly spirit animals are animals, and they come to help you with certain things in your life. You can have animals that are with you for your entire life, kind of like a spirit guide, and you can have animals that kind of come and go, that only come when you need something, or you're about to learn something, or you need to learn something. So a lot of times for me, what I see is if I'm meditating, sometimes I'm not even meditating, I'm just chilling and sitting. They'll just come across my, third eye vision.
I was going to say, do you think that it happens like that now more, obviously, because your channel is consistently open? Some people channel the mediumship of past loved ones, spirit guides, and all of that, but your channel, your attunement is into the elemental and spirit animal realm. So obviously working with that more, do you just always feel open and see stuff?
I turn it off. I do tell people I do turn it off, especially because it's too much.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm in a big group of people and I'm out.
Is there a zoo around you?
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh.
I don't want to constantly, people got monkeys jumping around.
I was just going to say, how many monkeys are on people's backs?
Right? So, sometimes I can turn it off, or I can turn it down, so it's not a distraction for my everyday life.
I don't blame you. I have Connie, both of us work with her from New Age Center. She'll be on next season. She talked to you about the on and off switch and setting your boundaries, and I see dead people. So she was like, you tell them you are not allowed to approach me from the back. That's creepy. Don't walk up on me. Don't come to my side of the bed. Don't walk out of my closet. You have to approach me when my on switch is on. So she explained her business, her chair specifically, she's like, this chair is my on switch. This is the only place that you're allowed to come to me. If I want to come to you and call out to you, I can call out to you anywhere. And that was very powerful for me developing my skills. Those spiritual boundaries. Because you're like, ooh, I have clear senses. And we all do, but you're working on it, you're building it like a muscle. So it's kind of like working out. One day you look in the mirror and you have a 6-pack and you didn't even know. And that's like, I know that that's where I'm at, where I'm like, oh, I can do this. Woo! Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I turn it off when I'm doing my everyday to life things. But if I know that I'm working with someone or that I'm getting ready to do my meditations and things like that, I will call in my guides and my elemental guides and things like that. Like say, yes, it's okay. It's time to work.
Do you ever get imposter syndrome when you're about to go and do a session with a client?
Like, what do you mean?
Like you, for a minute, like that negative voice in your head comes in and is like, you know, you're making this up, right? Like this isn't real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know where that voice comes from.
Too, and I'm like, I know what I saw.
Yeah.
But sometimes maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
I always go to the science of it. It's super funny that you say that because I'm just like, okay, think about like the visual light spectrum. You know, like we're literally all blind to most of the things around us. So that logical left brain, you know, pathway honestly really pushes a lot of that crud out of that weird imposter syndrome that does come up. But like I just did a Reiki session yesterday and I remember like right before I'm saging my house and I'm like, okay guys, I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome coming in and I have no idea why because I know I can do this. Like if I couldn't do it, then I would direct them to somebody that I feel is better equipped to handle them, you know? Yeah. I'm not just like, oh my God, I want to go help everybody. I'm like, no, if you'll find me if you want me. I'm here for you. It's okay. Like you really put those vibes and those boundaries out. So
yeah, no, I do the same. I put the vibes and the boundaries out. And if somebody wants something, great. If they come up and ask me, but I'm not going to be the person who's like comes up to somebody and says something.
Yeah.
I will not. I kind of look at it as ethical boundaries.
Yes.
And I will not read for someone unless they give me the approval that I can.
So my channel opens up all the time. I'm clairaudient, hardcore, and whatever the clairsense of the third eye is. So yeah, like the dead people is probably like third man on the totem pole, I would say. It's a lot of clairaudience. So like I'll be sitting there having a conversation with somebody and like say they're talking to me out of their ego or their mask, right? This person is telling me in my ear why they're acting that way. And they're like spill the tea almost. And whether it's on or off, I'm like you ethically, like I don't want to hear this, I promise you, but I do. And I'm not like, you don't know that I can hear this. I'm not going to take this out on you, nor use this information to my advantage, which I feel most people would if they had like a severe open channel of clairaudience. And like I will have to ask people sometimes, or if I'm in like the right group of people, I would say, because now I do watch where I go and who I'm around just because it does activate times that I don't want it to. That's something that I'm working on in my practice, but I've noticed that I'm like, oh God, the channel's opening right now and I didn't get consent. And I'm like talking to my guides. I'm like, guys, seriously, like nobody gave me consent. I don't need to know this. Like, I don't know they're going to break up in 6 months. It's fine. They'll figure it out. That's their soul contract. I'm not here to break anybody open in their awakening. I think everybody, when they have that awakening, that coin term, it's the smoker that just quit smoking. And you're like, dude, I can breathe. You know, but everybody's just got to kind of figure out that they have to put their vices down on their own times. So I love pulling those little trinkets apart because the integration is one of the biggest issues that I had with claiming, you know, whatever you want to call it, my gifts, my fun little things. So I know that you have also had that issue too.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember one time I wasn't having it on, but it clicked on, and my boss was with me. We were at the zoo, and she was talking about a tree that was dying. She was really kind of sad about the tree, and all of a sudden I heard garden fairy. I knew she was a garden fairy. I just knew it, and I did not know how to approach it with her. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm crazy.
Right. And you're talking more about like the spirit of it, like a spirit origin, like why you incarnated here and why you're like so close to all these things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like some people are just like, no, I'm not a gnome. I'm like, we're talking about a soul origin, friend. We're not talking about your human physical appearance. This isn't Hocus Pocus or Halloween Town from Disney Channel. But
I mean, we're all humans, but we all have a soul origin.
Yeah. I think it's just better to clarify that. Your elemental episode from the last one, I know for a lot of the people in my life, like I had like my stepmom reach out to me and she was like, I really enjoyed the elemental episode. I learned a lot. I'm intrigued. I want to know more. And she goes, and I think it's really cool that you have a dragon. Just like, these are just kind of like in passing conversations. And then she'll just randomly be like, oh, I saw a dragon the other day and it made me think of you. And I'm like, I know because of your episode, like whether it's like a full belief of hers that she believes in spirit animals or not, you know, that's on her. But the fact that she still acknowledges like my beliefs and the fact that like I meditate with other dimensional beings and I'm totally cool with it. I don't have a problem with it. That's the best thing I want to say. But I can understand that there's still that hesitancy for a lot of people out there. So I consistently want to clarify, we're talking about soul origin and where you come from, and to remind everybody listening that you're not from Earth, you're visiting.
Yeah.
So if I am listening to our conversation right now and I'm like, how do I connect with a spirit animal? Where would I begin?
I think a lot of it starts with just being open to it. Because they're always around. They're always there. They're always around whether you see them or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think opening up that channel to it, and a lot of times for me, that's meditation. And I usually start with kind of cleansing breath and clearing my mind space, calling in my guides and my angels and my higher self to cleanse my space and cleanse my aura and my chakras. And I ask them to raise my vibration. And I ask that usually Archangel Michael is a lot of ones that I use for protection. And so I call upon him for protection and to send like white light around me while I'm meditating. And I ask that I release anything that's negative, not for my highest good, any spirits or entities that are not for my highest good or attachments to leave my space now. And then I only allow in things that are for my highest good, spirits or entities that are for my highest good and have my highest purpose in mind. And that those helpful, healing messages are only allowed to come into that white light space. And then a lot of times I think about a cord. A lot of times I picture it as like roots coming out of the bottom of my feet, and they're digging into the earth, and they go deep into the earth until they hit the core, and it's a huge ball of white light. And once they hit that ball of white light, they attach, and that white light shoots back up that cord. And I imagine it shooting up through my body, up to my feet, my legs, just kind of going up through each body part until I get to the top of my head. And then I picture a huge bright light shooting out of the top of my head up to the universe. And that way I am completely open and ready and channeling to go.
You are totally an elemental when the root system comes up to you.
Yeah. That's exactly what I imagine. I imagine roots coming out of the bottom of my feet.
I've seen roots, and I've seen DNA coming up, like the Kundalini spiraling. The two energies, the masculine and feminine, will come in my meditations, and they'll swirl up like DNA and union going up. I've seen the roots before after I did a session with Nada Brahma, and he sat and educated me on what's going on, like what he was able to see, right? Because I was blind to his perception. But I just love that you're like, it's roots. I'm like, duh.
Yeah, it's usually the roots or vines, one of the two. It's usually what I imagine coming out of the bottom of my feet.
I like that though, especially because, meditation is, there's plenty of them, but my favorite is like I go to ground. I go to like basically commune with all of me and the universe. So I love all of the extra stuff that you do. Like I know a lot of people when they're just like, okay, call my guides, call my spirit team, like let's do this. But you have almost 7 steps before you even go out into another plane.
Yep.
And I think that underline anybody that's going to start anything. If you're going into this and you're not protecting yourself, you're not going to have a really good experience. Like you could actually attract something super negative to you, and that I think it'll just push you away from those gifts that you're trying to get into. So protection. Yes, call on your guides and all of that. So then you're settled with your breath, your guides are in, you're all rooted in the ground. You're basically a selenite stick shooting back up into creation. So what starts going through your mind? Like scenarios of the day, like obviously your 3D lifetime tries to come in, but what are the views that we're seeing?
A lot of times for me, it just depends on what it is. Sometimes I'm seeing it through my own eyes. Sometimes I'm outside of my body seeing it. So I can see it in different aspects. It's kind of weird, like a third person kind of thing. I was going to
say, I have experienced this in dreams and astral travel. And I, for lack of a better way of saying it, have decided that here's my 3D eyes that are observing this dream. And then when you get the out of body experience, I 100% believe that I'm looking through the eyes of my higher self, because she's like, hey, I need you to look at this from a bird's eye view. So when I get those dreams where there's ones where you're the character and you wake up in your dream and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming, this is cool. But the ones where you basically are behind a camera and it's showing you every angle and every corner, and the voice is like, hey, pay attention to this. Those are the ones that, well, one, they creep me out still because I'm like, oh my gosh, that came true. And then 2, you're still getting used to it. And like you said, you feel like it's a third person, but let me know if that's how you feel in the next however connection that you do, because I would like to also know if it's actually the eyes of my higher self, or if there's another guardian out there that I don't know how to acknowledge yet.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. A lot of times I'll see it through my own eyes, or I'll see it as a different perspective. But I still know that my body's over here, but I'm over there.
So you definitely feel the separation of the soul, but it's not like a panic. It's not like a near-death experience or anything crazy like that. And you did bring up the cord. So I think that's super important to bring up, because there's obviously a cord that tethers you to your body and all of that. And I guess that's more on the protection scale than anything. It's just protect yourself, because keep in mind your vessel is empty, right? It's not empty, but you are dimensionally traveling through frequencies, is what I like to say.
You're kind of away. You're stepping away. You
are away. Do you remember, I feel like we talked about this last time, a show on Disney Channel when we were kids called So Weird or something like that?
Yeah.
And the girl literally astral traveled to places and, you know, projected herself. And then it was every episode, it was always about how a negative entity knew that she was out of her body, so she had to make it back to her body, or somebody had to make it back to her body. That's what I think every time. I'm like, if you need a tutorial about how to not astral travel, go watch So Weird, because every episode that girl did not learn her lessons.
No, she didn't. But it takes a lot of practice to be able to channel and get to that point where you're set in your, rituals that you do prior to actually channeling, and making sure that you're protected and you've got your channels open, you're ready to go. So it takes a lot of practice to get to that point. So, if you're not there yet, understand that you're still learning and you're still practicing. It is a muscle that you are working. Eventually you'll get to the point where you can do it real fast.
And like I said, the reason that you wanted to bring up your perspective and teach a little more about spirit animals is because you're like, this is how I woke up to this gift. This is how I channel it. This is how I see it and work with it. But we all have different perspectives. So after you listen, if you think you see spirit animals, but it's not the exact way that Shauna sees them, we all have our own different receiver. We're one of 7.5 5 billion receivers running around Earth right now. So, I mean, I don't want my satellite the same as yours, but I really like tuning into your channel to see how you're doing this.
Yeah.
So who all...
But a lot of times...
No, go ahead. No, you're fine.
A lot of times when I start to see animals, usually I see a part of the animal. Sometimes I don't see the whole animal. I just see like a leg or a tail or just the eyes or an ear. Sometimes I will see like the whole head. And sometimes I'll see the whole animal.
Now, if you know this answer, because maybe you don't. Do you know why there's a reason that they only come in like almost like transparently like that or in pieces?
I think for me, a lot of times, because if you'll see a part of an animal, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to see the whole
But I'm just so curious,
exactly
instead of it like walking around, like my dog just walked up and licked my arm, and I know he's real because we've been together for like a while. But when you're in the meditation and you know, you're like in the jungle, and then you look over to your left and you see the tail of a tiger walking in, you clearly know that's a tiger, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, I wonder why it just shows you like a piece of it.
For me, I think sometimes when I'm meditating, I get like tunnel vision and I only see just a little bit.
That makes sense. Okay, very cool.
And I think, because sometimes it's not always like that. It's just like that sometimes. Sometimes I'll see the whole animal just living in its habitat, just walking around wherever it does, swimming, walking, laying.
I can't wait to tell you my stories at the end of the episode. I really think you're going to be really proud of what I've seen in the last couple weeks. And it just happened to be like we scheduled this a while ago, but I'm like, this had to happen because I'm getting ready to talk to Shauna. Like I get to go brag. I feel like your little like pupil. I'm like, please give me a gold star. I did so good.
I find with snakes though, they tend to like to show me their head.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they do.
Just like.
Yeah, like just kind of strike at you. I'm just like, why are you act like that?
Yeah, why are you so mean? Well, I mean, okay, so think about like collective karma and like all of the negative karma that's been put on snakes, right? Especially since like the serpent in the Garden of Eden, yada, yada, yada. So like if you think, you know, like divine masculine, divine feminines have their collective stuff that they're clearing out. And then if you give that to like all the animals, you're like all the snakes that have been killed, all of the hate, you know, they're clearing their own stuff out too. So they're like, okay, I just saw a human, but I'm still pissed at him.
I mean, they probably do get a lot of negative energy, but really more for snakes, it's about transformation. Change. Like, a lot of times when I see a snake, I know somebody or me is about to go through some transformation.
Okay, so it's only fair that I bring up one story because we're talking about snakes. It would just be weird to plug it in later. So story number 1. I had a beautiful lady come over yesterday to do Reiki at my house. And at the end of the session, I was just getting her chakras all lined up. So like basically when she walks out of my house, I don't energetically throw her into a Kundalini awakening or like anything crazy. So I go and I open all of them up as far as like clearing all of the sludge out and stuff, because you know some are rotating too fast, some are dead. Heart chakras are usually blocked. You can see like walls and armor and stuff around them, all of that. So I went up and down and I opened all of them up really quick, like a dam almost opening to like flush out all the stuff that we had just done in our hour session. And then I closed them back up, and then I was I was working with my guides too, but it was, I hope I don't say it wrong, it was Metatron that was with us yesterday. And I don't know if that was for her, if that's who I always work with. I'm still working on that because like you, I'm attuned to like Archangel Michael. So Metatron came in and was like really plugging it in yesterday. But what they allowed me to do was not necessarily open it to where she was, but like I helped her a little bit, but the integration wasn't going to be so harsh. So when I went over her crown chakra, I erased the meridian line back on her head, and then I opened it to keep her crown open so her guides can filter her third eye for her. And then when I went over the third eye and opened it, a huge king cobra like flew out of her third eye, like a black one, and just went, and I was like, oh, okay. Like it kind of startled me because again, like I just started seeing spirit animals in the last couple weeks. I was like, oh shit, okay, all right, okay. And it says, and he said, tell her I'm here. Like in like basically Slytherin, right? Harry Potter reference. But he was like, tell her I'm here. So I was like, all right. So I made her list of references that she got to take with her, and Crystal she got to look up afterwards because I'm a continuing education appointment. I'm not just a, hey, come to me for an hour and do your work and go back to your 3D life. Like you're going to have some integration stuff. So I really try to help with like after you talk to me. And I sent her a list and I was like, it was a king cobra, but it was black and it was huge. Like it's not your animal totem that stays with you the whole time. It's just, it's one to help you with this change and this transformation that you're going through. And she was just like, okay, all right. And she's very new to spirit animals. And I just thought it was really cool. Like I had that moment where I was like, I can't wait to tell Shauna. I literally just saw a cobra in my Reiki session and, you know, she felt good afterwards. I felt good afterwards. But the animals are like really cool now because I didn't see animals the way that you saw them the last time we talked. Like I talked to you about how like I have a white bangle that comes in my healing sessions, sometimes my meditations, but like I guess it was the feeling wasn't there. I could just see it, if that makes sense. And then now since I've had the last few experiences in my meditations the last couple weeks, I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like it's something just like clicked.
Yeah.
So I think obviously because of that click in my personal meditation, which is a part of my ritual of, you know, flexing my clairsense muscles, I think it was a really cool validation. Like, hey, you can see spirit animals now. And I'm like, yay! Because I'm a big animal lover. I grew up on a farm part-time. So nothing makes me happier than seeing animals in my head all day, and then my clairaudience plays music all day to me. I'm literally the happiest person unless you cross me. Nice. And then I'm like, ugh, I don't want to be mean. Shit. But that's my day now. I just get to see stuff. Not as intense as you though. So back to, you said like if you get around a group of people, you see a lot of animals. This is obviously like third eye. We're not talking about like apparitions like you would do mediumship as in like ghosts appearing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So example or just fun story wise before we get into all the other things that you've seen, like what is the biggest place that you've seen like the most amount of animals where you walked in and you're like, okay, shut it off. Nope, not doing this.
Probably at a restaurant. I can remember going to a restaurant to eat, and I would be sitting there, and the person I was sitting with, I would see a giraffe to the left of them. And it was just...
Did you just laugh, though? You're like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
there's the giraffe.
I mean, I actually told them what I saw, and they were interested, and I kind of read to them what it was about. But yeah, it was just like, I would look at them, and I would see a giraffe. And it's more like I don't actually see the animals physically, like in the physical plane, like with my eyes. I see them with my third eye. So like when I look at somebody, I see an animal associated with that person's face.
That is so cool. Yeah, because it still comes in like a download for anybody listening that understands like the feeling of a download coming in and you knowing that you're receiving something from a higher plane.
Yeah, it's like seeing a picture in your head.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, well, that's a really good thing to bring up because obviously growing up, it's your imagination, it's this, you know what I mean? Like these channels that we've been playing with our whole life, we've been misinformed of how our brain even works. So no wonder that most of this stuff just seems like, you know, unbelievable and like woo-woo for the most part. But when you get down to the science of it, that's where I started like breaking kindly, where I was like, okay, I know that I believe in this stuff, but I still need to break parts of it, you know? Like it comes off in layers. So, You told me that in your meditation, you have seen basically like breadcrumbs of new earth.
Yes.
Yeah, that like, you can't see it because we're on a podcast, but jaw dropped when I wrote that on my notebook that we're going to talk about breadcrumbing new earth in meditation.
Yes. I mean, I've asked my guides before to let me see the new earth. And I can tell you, it's hard to describe because it's more beautiful than anything I've ever seen. Like, it reminds me of our earth, but our earth didn't have, like, human constructs. Like, we didn't have houses, buildings, roads. It's kind of just like the earth if humans weren't ever there. And it's more vibrant and prettier than I can describe.
Do you get like an Avatar feel when you think about New Earth? Like how, because if we actually live and commune with nature and we're in balance with it and it protects us and loves us, and like I said, we're in balance with it and we're not killing it, like wouldn't we live in things like mother trees? Wouldn't we go back to druidic tendencies of passing down the correct knowledge to where like respect your elder doesn't mean because someone's older than you that you have to respect them. It's you respecting the wisdom and the knowledge that's being passed down. Because when I think of New Earth, that's what I think. I think of how the reason, obviously because of elements, we build these houses and these structures, especially because we weren't moving around all the time anymore, but I often wonder if we had to build all of these high places because we were protecting each other from each other, you know, with the way that the humans have just fallen into disarray and kind of killing each other over time, you know? So again, when I think of New Earth, my perception of it is like, I feel it, I get an Avatar feel about it. I'm not saying it looks like Pandora by any means, but just the way that we get to be with nature that for some reason, we're all really disconnected from. And we even kind of like look at nature like, oh no, I don't do that. I don't go out in the woods. I'm like, babe, you're from there. And that's where we're going back.
Yeah. Whenever I'm there, it feels very harmonious with nature.
I know you understand the feeling the frequency of unconditional love, like you could say violet flame or that heart space really opening up. And I know that when I meditate that is the feeling that I get in my body. It's actually really hard to get up out of my meditations when I get into that because you get like that little flow, that little that vibe that you get. But what was I going to say? Oh, so when you obviously like start teaching people about all this in a meditation, are there certain like feelings and even like vibrations or what am I trying to say? Like downloads or tones that you would look for to like help people guide them better? Like I said, because we all learn differently. So like maybe my body starts vibrating and it sounds like tinnitus in my left ear, right?
Yeah.
So long-winded question, right? Like how do you guide people like that?
I mean, for me, a lot of times I get a lot of chills, goosebumps, kind of just feel it throughout my body. And I have clairaudience, one of my main ones that I'm really in tune with, and I get a lot of ringing in my ears and constantly hearing buzzing all the time. And I always kind of think of it as my vibration is buzzing. I can hear myself vibrating, buzzing.
That's the exact answer I wanted. Like, because I remember the first time like I like got on a frequency in a meditation and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm not crazy. That happened. That really happened. And to bring it back to obviously that like feeling of openness and heart and harmony, compassion, all of that. I feel like that feeling in those meditations is literally what New Earth feels like all the time. And you actually connected that for me when you're like, oh, it feels really harmonious. And I'm like, I know that makes so much sense, obviously, because New Earth vibrates on unconditional love, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but you literally just connected that in my head. So great.
Well, great.
Awesome. New Earth equals 0.1 hertz heart brain coherence if you're in the physical body. But do you have any meditations that you like to use on like YouTube or anybody, or do you have any favorite meditation people?
I wrote some down. I wrote at least one down. There's one I really like to use for the elements, and they have. I want to say they have one for everyone, but I kind of want to say they didn't have one for Earth, but they might have it now because this was a while when I was using them. It's called Skeed Meditations, and they have one for each element.
It's called what? Spell it out for me.
It's Skeed, Skeed.
Skeed meditation. Okay, obviously.
It's actually really great.
You know my drill. The link will be down below so we can find this, and I'm adding this to my list of meditations to try. But it's like specific for elements, so that's obviously if you want to get into elementals, spirit world, this is your thing.
And it's a guided meditation, so they guide you through it.
I like that.
Do the steps and get to where you need to be an open channel, which is great, especially if you're learning how to do the steps and you're learning to be an open channel. This is a great one for you, so you can practice doing those steps until you're able to get to the end without waking up.
So, what question popped in my head? Can you just kind of like list off all the things that you've come across? Because I know that there are things that you're obviously still researching, and then there are things that you're, confident about talking or teaching about. But your channel is Spirit Animals. So I want to know like all the things that you've seen that have kind of helped you grow. Even Extraterrestrials, because when I talked to you a few months ago, you're like, girl, we got to talk. I talked to an Arcturian the other day. And a gray. And I was just like, when are we having lunch? Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I've seen probably, I can't even name all the animals I've seen. I've seen tons of animals. But dragons are another one that I see a lot, that I work with a lot. And I have several dragons of myself, and I've had several dragons that I've seen for other people. And I've had my dragons take me. I call it the Land of Dragons. They told me what the name of it was. I couldn't pronounce it even if I tried. But they took me back to where I say the Land of Dragons, where they all kind of live in that realm. And I've seen them all living kind of harmoniously. They remind me of like a community of, trying to think, like, I mean, kind of this community of animals. They like take care of each other. They have like little babies, and they're in a certain area, and they have bigger dragons who take care of them, and they have dragons in certain areas like up in the mountains or kind of in the fiery areas, or the water dragons. Like they all kind of commune together in this huge space.
Obviously you got me into dragons. I'm in between Shauna, the other Shauna from New Age Center, giving me my Reiki, and then me finding you and being like, what do you know about like water dragons, like blue, like I got a lot of my information and a lot of my stuff from you. And I've had her come to me in meditations, and I'm like, I want to connect to you more. Like, I really want to go connect with you. Like, show me like a physical place on earth that I could go and connect with you where like the veils would be thin, right? Not that you're going to appear as an apparition in front of me, but like, let's get this third eye channel linked up, Zariah, because I know your name. I know what you look like. You come to me multiple times, but like, besides meditating, like, where can I meet you? And I want to do a meditation, protected, all that fun stuff. She actually took me to a place called Jenny Lake in the Teton Mountain Range. And, I don't know when I'm heading back out there. I'll probably hit that and Livingston, Montana at the same time, even though, I probably will. But I want to go there and just camp, meditate, like connect to the elements. They just show you where you're supposed to go, and you're the little Sims character, right? So that was like a really big, profound moment in my, I would just say like animal totem, Because I know she's not like my totem, right? She really is like a big feminine force to reckon with.
More of a guide.
Yeah, she is. But what I was trying to say is she's not like the Cobra from the Reiki session earlier, where like that Cobra is just probably going to be here for a couple weeks to like really get you through this thing. And then like maybe a raccoon will come up later. Zoraya, like she's assigned to me, like I shouldn't say assigned, but like we picked each other. We have a dimensional contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like pointing that out because I never get to talk about my dragon enough. And I know there's some people that are like, the F are you talking about? And then there's other people that are like, I wonder if I have a dragon spirit animal. And if you're wondering that, Shauna is your girl because mermaids and dragons I know are like two big things that you are really just in tune with as far as your intuition. Yeah,
dragons probably the most part, which is weird to think about mermaids and dragons together.
Yeah, but oh man, it's kind of pretty too. You're like, what a pretty world. Everybody's all living in harmony.
For dragons, I've found I have some crystals for fire elements that you could start working with to use for fire elements. And here's just a few. I don't want to give too many because there's a lot. But red jasper is one. Red agate and red carnelian is some that you can start working with to actually start working with the fire element.
Carnelian being like a really good representation in my head of it, like just even the fire, because it has like the yellow and goes into the orange, but it's kind of like a gradient on the stones. So I was wondering if carnelian was one of them when I was writing it down.
And for dragons, they like sphere crystals. They like round crystals. And so when you're working with dragons, they prefer you to have spheres.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I just looked over at my crystal collection, and both of the spheres that were gifted to me from my soulmate best friend, they're both Zoraya's colors.
Yeah.
Like use one, them. Right? I feel like this episode's for me. Like I have my notebook here. Like I feel like I have to Venmo you afterwards. Jesus. That just blew my mind. Okay, cool. So dragons like to work with spheres.
They do.
I'm not even going to ask you that because I wouldn't even know the answer. I don't know why they want to work with spheres, but I'm really curious.
I don't either, but for me, like especially when you first meet your dragon and it's actually your dragon, you're connected, they like to kind of bump foreheads. They like to touch foreheads, kind of like a cat, you know, like when a cat kind of just gives you a bump.
Or like Mahalu, again in Avatar, you know, when they just make that little connection.
That's how they show that they're yours. You connect by touching foreheads.
Or
every dragon that's ever been mine.
Or they're literally tapping your pineal gland, right?
Yep. We connect foreheads.
Oh. Wow.
They'll lean down, kind of like bow, and then you connect foreheads.
I'm learning so much. I really am. The spheres, the fire, the carnelian. Oh my gosh. Okay, what else did you bring?
I can give some just different crystals for each element and kind of how I use them and how my guides have taught me to use them.
Yeah, for sure.
So I gave the fires. The water is aquamarine, aventurine, turquoise. Earth would be jade, malachite, and green aventurine.
And these are all very accessible stones.
Yeah, they're all super easy to find. And for air, rose quartz, howlite, and moonstone.
Very cool.
For my third eye, I like to use clear quartz, amethyst, or selenite.
Selenite's one of my faves. I call it the lazy stone, but I mean, it clears everything. Yeah, it clears everything. You don't. Oh, I love selenite. I have it all over my stuff because I am not taking 300 crystals outside. You got me messed up. We are on a rotation schedule, girls.
I have a huge selenite tower, and I keep the selenite in my grid all around it. That way it charges all of them at the same time. Yeah, I have one like that, huge, big one.
Yeah, I have 3 huge selenite towers that rotate all around my studio, just because, I mean, besides doing Reiki in my house and any other energy work that I'm doing, and then my work, and then bringing the guests in on the show, I mean, I need a sage sponsor and Palo Santo, let's be honest, because you got to clear that stuff out. But selenite, just to plug one of my favorite stones, great. You don't have to charge it. Do not ever soak it in water. You can just set it on some salt if you really feel it needs cleanse, but it's the cleanser of all the stones.
It is.
Yeah, my goal,
my favorite.
If I have to come back and incarnate on Earth, I am going to be a selenite slab. Yeah, and I'm going to have my soulmate dig me up. He's going to fall in love with me, and he's going to put me at his house, and I'm just going to clear all the bullshit out of his life, and I'm just going to accelerate his soul contract.
Amazing.
But if it'd be cool, I would just kind of like to just hang out in 5D with Brandon Boyd for a while and just make some sacred geometry and just like giggle.
Nice.
What are your dreams about if you have to come back after reincarnation? Because I know I'm going to wrap this up with some killer music in a sec, but why we're here dreamversating about our next lives, do you know what you want to come back and do?
I'm not 100% sure. I think if I did come back, I'd probably come back as a person, but if I did come back as a person, I'd want more remembrance. I don't want the veil as much, because I hate having to go back through and learn everything. I don't want to do that.
Oh, okay. You're making me want to change my answer. And I was solid on selenite, but I was like, wait, I could come back with my memory?
Whoa.
Right?
That would be what I want to do. I want the veil to be a little thinner. Like, I don't want all the memories. Like, I don't want to remember every time I went to the grocery store.
I don't necessarily need the past life. I would just like a little bit of a rundown before I leave the hospital. Yeah. They're like, hey, welcome to Earth. Shit's a little crazy here. This is what you came for. Right? Yeah. They're here to help you, not hurt you.
And remember how to work with all these spirit animals so I can just pick up where I left off.
Right? They're like, in your last life, you mastered all of these, and you get to bring them into your next life. So instead of wasting the next 30 years of your life trying to figure out that you're this multidimensional, powerful spirit, here is your intro packet to Earth. Hi, I'm your life guide. I am Alina. I will be with you your whole life. You will block me out around the age of 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, but I will find you.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I want to be a life guide now. I think I want to be a life guide. I think it'd be fun having my own little Sims character.
But now I want to remember how to do all this. If I have to come back, I don't want to forget and have to remember. I want to remember how to do all this so I can pick up where I left off.
Yeah, I mean, I think what needs to be noted, because obviously, like spirituality and anything like that, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? So, I mean, not everybody in the community is obviously going to be in it because they're here for the conscious collective and New Earth and raising vibrations and all of that fun stuff. Like, you still have to weed out through people when you're working, right? But like your work and my work specifically is for the collective conscious, understanding like humanity is going through something that nothing in creation has ever experienced. And I mean, like, our intent is pure. Like, we understand finally why we're on Earth and that we're not from Earth. Like, we're not Earthlings. We're playing a role. We're in a little bit of a play, but we're still spiritual beings having a human experience. And when I consistently remind myself of that, like, I think about, like, the day that I die and I wake up with that, remembering everything, right? Because you're going to have an integration process after you die, too. And you're going to go there and you're going to meet all these people that right now I don't remember them because I'm playing Cheyenne. But when my soul goes back up, you know, everything I was taught wasn't up there or didn't exist. Or even the fact when I grew up, people were like, you know, animals don't go to heaven. You know, when you're going to church, like, animals don't have souls. They're not going to heaven. I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I would love to be reunited with all of them.
No, I've seen the Rainbow Bridge, like what they call the Rainbow Bridge, where
Mm-hmm.
animals go over. I've seen it. I've seen animals over there.
Yeah, I think the work that you do is powerful. I know, at least in my heart, where a lot of us are, it still feels like the beginner stages, but I was talking to my friend Jenna about this last week. We were talking about people with vision feel the most crazy because you have one foot, like you're really struggling to be in the present moment because your brain is consistently receiving downloads of what you're headed towards. And not everybody gets to have this like premonition almost, for lack of a better term. But the people that do, the creators, the right brains, the musicians, the trendsetters, like all of this stuff, you really do feel crazy because you have one foot in the future because you are connected to your higher self and your future self. And I know that sometimes, like, you know, if they show me something good, I'm like, let's get there, you know, and then they show me something that they're like, hey, this challenge is coming up. Like, we just want you to know. Like, I've decided that my team is like I'm in the escape room, right? And the button on the wall, because you can't find the code or anything. Like, I've hit that damn thing so many times because I'm like, I don't get it. Like, nope, I hit a wall again. And then, like, I've hit it so many times that, like, the manager comes over the intercom and they're like, you're only allowed 5 buttons. And I was like, well, I'm going to break everything in this freaking room unless you give me a hint. So then they're like, okay, well. Like, I don't know if I'm cheating Earth School by any means. I'm not saying that. But I'm pretty sure, like, my team is so hyped that they're like, can we just give her, like, a little heads up? You know, like, she's been blindsided 2,800 times. So I think because the channel's a little open, she's just going to get a couple little downloads about, hey, this challenge is coming up. Just keep in mind, you wrote the contract, so...
Yeah, because you just get a piece. Like, I get that too. Like, I'll just get a piece of it. I'm like, well, what does that mean?
Right? Well, I'm like, what do you want me to do with that?
I don't know where this, right? Like, I don't know where this contact lays. And then eventually when it finally happens, I'm like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah, it brings a whole new meaning to planting a seed. Like, when you think of all of us planting seeds around each other, but, like, the divine planting seeds in all of us, because you're right, like, almost like the deja vu aspect of it, even though it's not, but you're like, oh, I get why you sent me that. Got it. But I'm like, I'm so devoted to listening to them that I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do with that? Like, do you want me to walk on by? Did you just plant a seed? If you planted a seed, let me know. But if you just sent me something and I'm supposed to, like, cultivate this idea that you gave me in some way, like, send me a feather or a confirmation or, like, a cardinal or something. Because... yeah, I get a little insecure sometimes on the validations, and I'll be asking for, like, 3 cardinals. I need 3 cardinals in the next 24 hours. And I don't really think that's asking for much because there's cardinals all over my house. Or one time I was like, I'll take 2 cardinals, one being a male, one being a female, and a blue jay. And if I see all of them, then I know, like I'm validating it, right? Because I'm still learning and building the intuition. I don't want to be like, I'm bossing creator around, but I'm like, hey guys, you want to work out my intuition muscle with me today? And besides like tarot and pendulums and meditations, just the physical world validations are super cool. Finding the pennies, the feathers.
Yeah. No, I do the same thing. Like, I constantly ask for validation because I think you need that validation so you don't feel crazy.
Yeah.
I think you need to ask. I ask my guides all the time for stuff. Like, they don't always give it to me, but
I ask for like earthly stuff. Like, where's my phone charger? And then they flash me a picture.
No, I ask all the time for weird stuff.
Yeah, they'll flash me a picture, like, I guess where it's at, air quotes. And I'm just like, okay, friends, thanks for that. And then sometimes I don't listen to it, which is kind of funny because I sit in my own suffering, acting like I'm all alone and I don't have, like, help. And you kind of feel weird. You're like, I can't believe I just asked my guide from a phone charger, but I'm out of options. And I need you to just flash me an image really quick of, what happened. So I think that's cool, though, because I really do like bringing, like, the spiritual realm down into the physical world and, like, how you can integrate it into your daily life to make your life better. So, like, not everybody should have a spiritual awakening and, like, be a freaking guru or, like, you know what I mean? Like, again, there's still, like, the marketing about it where everyone's like, okay, I woke up. Now I'm going to go sell crystals. I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, you can be a doctor and have a spiritual awakening and love being a doctor because, like, that's what you came for, is to help sick people. And this is the way that you're going to help them. Now, could you maybe help rewrite the guidelines to where they're better for humanity? Could you, you know, put insurance companies in check where it's better for humanity? You know, maybe that's your goal. But the illusion that just because you have an awakening that now you have to live this, like, holistic, vegan, blah, 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 spiritual life. Yeah, it's just not a thing.
It's not.
No.
No, I mean, I have a career outside of this that I do.
Yeah, you do. And I always wonder how you do it. Because you're such a happy, nice person, and you take on, like, a lot of challenging energies in your full-time job, which I still think pushes your passion more into, you know, your spirit animal and your elemental business, because you're like, I know that I'm helping on a, like, you know, my 9 to 5, my people, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to, like, help and honestly protect too. And then the spirit animals, I mean, I just feel like it'd be the vacation of your life. You're like, yes, this is the real work.
No, I love the chance I get to step away from my earthly job, as I call it, and actually get to do my passion and work with the spirit animals and even aliens that I've been seeing recently, and working with them, or at least just knowing that they're out there, I guess, more than anything, is that they're there.
They're 100% there. And there's a story I read a few weeks ago about how NASA had been, they've been wondering why these stars were disappearing so far away for, like, years. There wasn't a black hole next to it. They didn't explode, like, nothing like that. They're just gone. It looks like somebody sucked them up, right? And what they concluded is that there is an extraterrestrial force out there eating the stars for their energy to travel. And I was like, okay, is that like a CIA document? Like, how are we getting this information across? Because our own government, our own programs now, our own science as a whole is what I'd like to say. They're acknowledging extraterrestrial presences out there. And you can tell by, you know, the conditioning systems of the news, movies, all of this stuff. Like, you see a shit ton of, like, fear-mongering alien movies coming out.
Yeah.
Like, a ridiculous amount coming. So I know the shift of people waking up to the fact that we truly aren't alone is breaking people unkindly, which is why people are like, okay, whatever, aliens. But I think it's okay to, you know, literally look at a really cool NASA video and watch the telescope shoot all the way out into all the different galaxies, basically, and be like, there's no way that we're all alone. You know, open your mind a little bit. It's okay.
And I think people fear the unknown. And I think extraterrestrials are the unknown. We don't know a lot about them. And then they've put that fear into us because of the movies and things that have been played out for aliens and things we've grown up watching. But, I mean, truthfully, that's not them at all. That's not why they're here.
I mean, I'm not going to say that, like, every extraterrestrial is great, right? And I'm not going to spend my time educating anybody on, like, reptilians. But I will tell you that Greg Braden has a wonderful documentary, I mean, on Gaia, but you can also find clips on YouTube. And he talks about human chromosome 2, the DNA splicing of the human race, and how the only thing that they know is that our DNA was spliced over 200,000 years ago from a divine or extraterrestrial source, whatever you want to call it. And then there are theories that, you know, like, there's a little piece of each extraterrestrial out there in us. So, like, we're a little bit of gray, we're a little bit of Arcturian, we're a little bit of Pleiadian. Pleiadian breaks down into, like, Taigetan, and what was the other one? I don't know. There's one other alien species, but I rattled off a couple. But the fact, like when you think, I can't fear something that's me, right? And it's been proven if we're all one, it's not just about the human race being one, it's about every dimension out there that we've been taught is just like Hollywood and made up in somebody's head, and we're all alone. Realistically, all of us are one in each other. So, I mean, to get like super awesome about it, like I'm an alien and I'm a dragon and I'm human and I'm a spirit. So that's where like the whole like realizing that you're truly a multi-dimensional being playing a human role, that's when shit really changes for people, in my opinion.
Yeah. But I know just from what I see, they're out there. I mean, I think in every race there's going to be ones that aren't as nice. I mean, it happens with humans too. We have people who aren't that great.
Yeah, they really suck and make everybody else look horrible.
Yeah, or they make other people suffer for no reason. I mean, I think that happens in every race. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I really do like focusing on like the collective energy of it all. You know, I mean, one of my favorite Ram Dass quotes is treat everybody like it's God dressed up in drag, and like whatever God is to you, right? I don't mean the Christian God. I mean whatever you think created you past your parents. And I really like that too. I found exploring my spirit that I'm able, you know, kind of like when you channel, like my higher self comes in and does the work. My eyes are different. My tone of voice is different. I radiate on a state of bliss when I do Reiki in my meditations and when I do tarot cards. So I have like a lot of candles, a lot of sage, a lot of Palo Santo, because a lot of the energy that I talk about is like super, super deep. And it's stuff that you don't believe that another person could see in you. So I still struggle with that gift because I literally saw what happened to you and you're sitting in front of me. Okay.
I also wanted to bring up the fact that a lot of times people will see colors when they're meditating. And just because you're not seeing like anything physical like that doesn't mean that that's not a sign or a guide coming to you. Because a lot of times guides will come to people as a color.
So I love that you brought that up, because when I was working with Connie, I was talking to her about, I said, I see colors in my head. I just, you know, I've always seen colors. Can you kind of help me with that? And she's like, well, tell me the ones specifically. She goes, because your guides can send you colors. She goes, but like certain, like Kuan Yin works from the violet flame. So she would come to you as like a purple cloud, right? And you're not going, for me, so like I don't see her like fully manifested in front of me. I see like my meditation turns purple. That's like her being like, hey, I'm here. Or like, hey, you're here, right? Because she doesn't lower to me. I vibe up to her. And then when I am connected to her, she introduces both of her names. It's Avalokiteshvara, which is the masculine form of her, the first creation of her. And then over her, which now she is feminine, mother of compassion, fertility, and now she's Kuan Yin. So not only do I know that I'm working with Kuan Yin specifically, but I'm working with the divine masculine and the divine feminine in full violet flame union that come and work with me. And that also, like I've worked with Kuan Yin for a while, but I actually did, I don't even know what it's called. I just did a really awesome class at Psyche and Soul with my favorite practitioner, Jennifer Smith. And we went out to the back to ground and do our walks and connect. And when I was getting ready to walk through the portal of the trees, I was thanking the earth and everybody, you know, just really giving that gratitude out and staying on that frequency. And it literally just kept repeating Avalokiteshvara, Avalokiteshvara, Avalokiteshvara. And I bring this up because I've had people ask me before, how do you know the difference between like you're channeling something and then like your own thought and even like your own ego, right? And I've told them I learned it from studying other channelers because I was trying to figure out what the pictures meant, what the voices and all that stuff meant. And he said it's a thought that hits the back of your mind and pushes its way through anything else that you could be thinking about. It doesn't matter. Like it's, to say like it's against your will sounds like not cool, but you feel it, you feel the channel coming up, and I identify the different thought streams in my head now. So like I know when my ego comes in, not that I can always shut it down, but I'm aware when I'm operating from that thought stream. When my higher self comes in, when my guides are talking to me, when my ancestors talk to me, I call it my little PR person in my left ear. So when those thoughts really just push up front, and again, like you said, it's a muscle, you really have to work with it and use discernment.
I find for me, like the thoughts behind me or it comes from above me. And a lot of times when my guides are speaking to me, they say you. And when it's my own personal thoughts and ego, I say I, myself. They say you, your.
You're right. You just reminded me. I hear that too. But I know, because I've named my spirit. I'm going to go do another QHHT session, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Therapy, by Dolores Cannon from one of the practitioners. There's a lady in town that does it and does Akashic readings, so I want to work with her. But there's also a woman out of Kansas City that does like 6-hour sessions. So, you write down your 10 questions, you do your interview, she hypnotizes you, and we're just going to go in and record like a 3 or 4 hour hypnotism session. And what I really want to know is, like, what is my soul's name? Like, does my soul have a name? It's not going to be English, right? Like, is it going to be a light code that comes in? Like, I'm so curious. Or am I being like such a human about it where like your soul doesn't need a name? Because if you think about going back to where we're all together, like, that's an individual concept, a name, right? So if we're all going home, then we're all just like one. So it's like, I'm going to go under and they're going to be like, your name is one. Or like something like completely anticlimactic. But that's on my list, is I would really like to know my soul's name, because I did hear Moonbeam. Moonbeam's been a nickname of mine randomly. I actually gave a girl that nickname when I worked an opening with her. And then over the years, it just kind of transformed into mine. And that's my on and off switch. Now, like when people consent, if you have a reading, if I do Reiki for you, like I explained to them, the only way I'm able to do this is stepping myself aside. So Moonbeam's going to come in, like I'm still here, I'm still in charge of my body, I'm not possessed, but we're going to link our frequencies up, and like she or they, because I don't consider her a female, they're going to come in and they're going to work. So I said this on another episode, but that really takes the ego out of like me feeling like I'm a healer, right? Yeah. Because like my body is truly just a vessel for the divine to work through. But really stepping myself aside is one of the biggest things I learned from Katie. She's a tarot reader that's also on the show. And I just think that that's worth repeating as many times as I possibly can, because that was also a really big block in the beginning of putting my Reiki journey into effect. Was I'm like, okay, I know that like I'm supposed to help out or anything, but I know this isn't technically coming from me. I know I'm just a channel. Mm-hmm. So I say that because did you ever have moments where you obviously had to get out of your own way to open yourself up more to these things that you already know are out there?
Yeah. I mean, I've had moments where, your self-doubt comes in, your ego comes in, you're just kind of like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?
What are you doing?
So then I have to remind myself, right? I have to remind myself that is my ego, that's my doubt, that's not really who I am or my light or my vibe. And I call it check yourself. You gotta check yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Exactly. You gotta check yourself. And I kind of remind myself, like even my guides will say it sometimes. You know what you know. You know what you've seen. And you know where you've been. Remember that.
I love that.
They tell me that a lot. They're like, girl, what are you doing? You know what you know.
Like, see, stop. I often wonder, like I had 2 friends that passed away that are with me like all the time. They're not like with me all the time, right? But like if I want them, I can call on them real quick. And I often wonder, Do my guides actually talk to me like that, or is that my ancestors coming in and just being like, okay, seriously, like, knock it off?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
a lot of times they communicate telepathically. That's what I've found. Like, they don't speak with words, like with their mouth. Like, I hear them like in my head.
Yeah, it's definitely like a download.
Yeah, it's definitely a telepathic thing. Whenever I've ever seen my guides, or I've seen like ancestors or loved ones who've passed, they don't speak like with words like we're speaking right now. They speak kind of telepathically. Like, they say something and then you hear it, and then you say something back and they hear it. Like, it's just through your mind.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the telepathy, because that is pretty freaking accurate for me on my guides too. But some of the best advice I got from Connie was how to differentiate the voices. Like, is it a spirit coming in to talk to you? Is it your ancestors? You know, is it an alien? You know, and it sounds crazy. Like, if you don't do any of this work, you're like, I would literally go insane if I had to figure out what of the 20 voices in my head are who right now. Like, people consider it like bipolar schizophrenia, like going insane, demonic possession type shit. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm literally saying, like, I've heard voices in my head my whole life on top of my inner monologue. And I was really surprised to find out that not everybody has a bunch of voices in music and, you know, some tea spilling voice in their head.
Yeah, which is interesting to think about, because I've had the same thing. I've always had an inner monologue. I've always had voices speaking to me. And for the longest time, I never knew it was my guides until one day somebody explained how to differentiate between you and your guides. And all of a sudden it clicked. And I said, oh my God, they've been talking to me my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that same moment. I was like, oh my God, all of that is real. Which then I had to remember the times where, like, I had like creepy moments happen and I was like, that didn't happen, that didn't happen, that didn't happen. But it did. It did happen. And I had that confirmation and just that, wow. Which, I mean, in a weird way, it released me from a lot of human suffering that I had carried around at the time. And I think that I was meant to carry that suffering around to be the catalyst to awakening these pathways that are already in me. All right, so before we hop off here, tell me about maybe not like all the extraterrestrials that you've seen, but just like a couple, and maybe some that you're having to deep dive some information because you've never heard about them before.
Okay. Some of the aliens that I've seen, I mean, kind of the usual ones, the Greys. I've seen the Greys before. And I've seen the Arcturians before. They were pretty interesting.
Arcturians, are they the ones, is it Arcturians and Pleiadians that look mostly like humans? Like, they're the closest ones that look like it?
The Arcturians I saw, they were very tall, blue, pretty metallic blue skin. And they've got like a diamond in their third eye.
That's interesting.
When I met them, I actually wasn't supposed to be there, is what they told me. I popped in, and one of them was like looking down at something, and they were like watching something. I couldn't tell what they were watching, but he was looking down, kind of like concerned. And I tried to move in closer, and that's when another one kind of stepped in my view, and I was kind of like, hey, hello. And they're like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, oh.
That's so funny. Like, you're not supposed to be here. I'm like, aren't you supposed to tell me how you're here to help Earth too?
Right. I was just kind of like, how did I get here? Like, what's going on? And they're like, they pretty much basically what they said was that it was too complicated for them to explain to me.
That makes sense. I mean, I'm not offended when I understand that I incarnated in the lowest frequency in creation. So I'm not offended anymore when you go through all this research and you're like, just so you know, you're actually pretty fucking stupid as a race compared to everybody else out there, but y'all think you're hot shit. It's very humbling. Yeah. So it's honestly nice. Well, it's nice to have the stories.
Yeah, and then they kind of just sent me on my way. They sent me to some other realm when I was out. So, I mean, it was real quick. But it was interesting to see them.
How they're like, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, I don't know how I got here.
I don't know how I got here, but I guess I'm going to go back. Which is weird because I've always heard people that actually like work with Arcturians, which I mean, there's some in some groups, like maybe you went into the part of the Arcturian dimension where they're like, yeah, we don't work with you here, but it's not like their race doesn't work with us in general, because I've heard other stories where they're like, I channel, they give me light codes, they tell me what to do, all this stuff. So I've just never heard a story where they're like, you're not supposed to be here. The only comparative story I have for that, not that I've channeled aliens before, but I did chakra dhyana meditation, and I have seen, like, when I vibrate up to my spirit guides, I'll ask them, like, hey, I want to see all of you. So, like, I rise up, and then they're all around me. And this one time, this meditation was really new for me, so releasing expectations, I still knew I was going to see something. And this lady, she looks super kind of like humanistically anime. She had like bright blue hair, just kind of that glossed over character. And I heard her go, oh my God, she's here. Oh, we don't have long. Okay, sit down. Okay, listen. All the stuff that you're going through right now, like, she can't hold her frequency. I don't have enough time to tell her that. Shut up. And she's just like going in. It's like my best friend that didn't incarnate with me, but still isn't my life guide, but just like watching. Like, that's what I was getting from it. All the things that like I went to go meditate about, she was like, hey, you're right about this. Reassess this. You're good on this. And then something that I can't mention on the show, but she was like, this right here that won't go away. She's like, it is. You're right. It's okay. Like, it's not going anywhere. And I was just like, oh, cool, great. All right. So, and then like, it kind of faded out, right? You feel yourself like come back down into your human body. But I laughed so hard because I never had an experience in my meditation where like one of my guide people came in and they're like, oh my God, she's here, but she can't hold the frequency long. You need to raise your frequency to see us. Like, I was like Helen Keller, and she was my miracle worker the way she was talking to me. She's like, yes, water. And I'm like, I don't know who you are, but I'm coming back, blue hair. I am coming back to you.
It's funny the way they talk to you sometimes because they're very blunt.
Well, I love that everything's blue for me. Like, I have a blue-haired guide. I'm obsessed with any shade of blue anyways, but then like my dragon's blue. I wanted blue dreads, but I started to go more to like the missing small percentage of like Nordic heritage, I believe, is actually in our DNA. So I wanted to look like the ancestors I'm trying to stomp out their trauma for. Like, I was just like, hey, let's just represent a little piece of all of us. Every time I eat a potato, all of my Irish family members are like, yes, get more potatoes. And I'm like, I'm here for you guys. I'm here for you. We won't comment on any of the other ancestral lines because I think that I'm doing a fair amount of work eating potatoes for my Irish heritage.
There you go.
So before I hop off here, even though I've said that like 4 times, I forgot that there's a meditation story that I want to tell you as like your star pupil. So the other day, actually 2 weeks ago, setting the scene, I was sitting down to meditate and I knew that I needed to go somewhere and not necessarily just sit with a blank third eye and just see what comes through. Like, I really needed to like get out of my body. So there's this mountain scene that I go to that I've just been forever. I usually go and like right there and all of that. So I'm sitting there like on the stump overlooking this just gorgeous ravine of, creator's country. And this bear, like this huge grizzly bear, like I can hear him just like, comes up behind me in my meditation and like sniffs me and just like looks at me. And I immediately in my meditation, I'm like, there's a bear behind me. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like in my meditation, I just jumped up and I was like, no bear. This is my mountain. Like, no, go. And I like freaked out because obviously like, it's a bear. He's going to kill me. Mm-hmm. And he literally says, yeah, I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to help you. So like, if he was a human, he would just kind of like put his hands up. He's just like, I can't do anything to you, but that's not why I'm here. So I sat down and I was like, I had my moment like you had with your whale. You're like, okay, I just talked to an animal in my meditation. Like, I'm full blown going fucking crazy now, right? Like, what is going on? But I could obviously feel the harmony in it after I sat back down and got my breaths into sync. And so he's like, obviously I go and look up bear totems to see what's going on. And sometimes when you look up a totem, it kind of feels like a horoscope. Like, it is like overgeneralized if you don't go super deep, which is why I tell people, you really, if you're going to read the paragraph, if it's 5 things in a paragraph, you have to look for the resignation, and it might only be 3. So I had that realization, but then, so we're sitting back on the mountain and he's behind me and he just keeps talking to me in my meditation. And then, something else, like a white Bengal came up and I talked to it, and it's a female and she's actually like mine. I've had her my whole life. So she talks to me about how it's just really nice that I acknowledge her now. And like, I know that you knew that I was with you, but it's really cool that when you call on me, she's like, I just like that we can talk, you know? And I feel like it's a best friend that incarnated as a spirit animal for me or something. It's kind of funny because the way that they talk. And then one of the last ones I had was a critter that I could never cuddle with, which I've seen spiders plenty of times, and I saw a scorpion one time, and I was like, listen, I'm like, I love all of the creatures, but you scare me. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to mess up the message that you're trying to give me. Yeah, I was like, but you guys just kind of scare me. When the spiders come in, I'm like, I know I create my own reality. This is my web. Like, I got the message. Please go, send me puppies, unicorns, rainbows, like all that fun stuff. So I really enjoy just when they do come to me and then looking up the totem myself. But literally, like just recently, they're all coming to my meditations now. And I finally feel and connect and understand all of the teachings that you brought on over a year ago. So I know that I'm really good at tree branching and rambling in my episodes, which I'm okay with. I like it. But I always appreciate you coming on and just expanding your growth, your journey, and always the ways that you're helping people.
Well, I appreciate you bringing me on and letting me help and teach people more about spirit animals and dragons and just how to communicate better and channel better.
I think the only way we're all going to figure this out is if we, 1, realize we're not all alone, but 2, like, we're supremely supported. We are not unworthy of help from anybody. And like the compassion and the love that not only has to radiate from us to be able to connect with those frequencies. I know that there was a time where I was like, oh, dragons, okay. Like, okay. You know, like everybody has that time. And I'm sure there are so many people that are still there. But now when, again, like I connect the spirit and the science, and I understand frequencies, dimensions really aren't that far off from me. And you can just like read any of the papers from modern day science or like quantum physics that talk about any of that stuff. And you realize, you know, maybe we just need to open our minds a little more to what's out there. So I'm glad there's people like you and there's people like me that are doing the work and wanting to help the conscious collective, so to speak. So I look forward to bringing you back on for info episodes. And, you know, it doesn't always have to be about like elementals and spirit animals. It could just be, you know, an Anunnaki episode for all we care. You know, we really just want to talk about all of this information. So I'd love
to come back and speak more about whatever else comes to me.
I feel the same exact way. But until you come back, I will tell you I picked you out an epic song today. And it just happens to be the theme song of my podcast. It's my favorite song and Neovai's favorite song off of his new album, Twilight. I picked you out the song Destiny. So, you know, this is for you, my friend. Thank you again for coming on and sharing all your knowledge with us.
Thanks.
This is the Hoosier Media Network, the best in podcasting.